Hi everyone, welcome to the breakdown. This is Renai and Nkateko, but Nkateko is missing in action because I'm in London. Hello. Guys, I'm in London. Okay, so today we're going to do a serious interview. Welcome my guest, Dr. Marvel. Welcome to the breakdown.
Thank you so much for having me.
So the breakdown is with Renai and Nkateko, but as you know, Nkateko is not in London. Somewhere there in the load shedding parts of South Africa.
Yeah.
In the abundance of electricity in London. So welcome. So before we start, I'm going to do a few questions just for ice-breaking purposes so that you're relaxed and you don't feel like we're bombarding you.
Yeah.
First question, what's your favorite travel destination on this planet?
I think South Africa.
But you know South Africa still has load shedding.
I know. The thing is, it's one of those things where when you're in South Africa, you complain and you're like, and then you go out and then you realize you miss the hospitality of South African people.
Yeah.
And just our country is so beautiful. I love it. Yeah. I love being in London too. just in case King Charles is watching. And
that is actually so true. You never know.
Just so that I don't get deported. I love being in the UK.
Mama is like, in case I don't get deported. So oh my goodness. The second question I want to ask you is, what do you love about being South African? Already also because you just said that traveling has made you realize that South Africa is quite a cool country.
Yeah.
You know, we have our shortcomings, but we're a cool country.
Absolutely.
So what do you love about being South African?
Firstly, I think, like I said, the people. South Africans are probably one of the most hospitable is that the word?
Yes,
hospitable people in the world. We are friendly, we are welcoming, and I think our country is honestly one of the most diverse countries in the world. But also I love, and I know a lot of people are going to take this for granted, but the freedom and democracy we have in South Africa, it's amazing. Like, you have freedom of speech, you got so much freedom to express yourself in South Africa that in most countries you don't get that opportunity. So that's something that I really love about being South African, is that if you take time to actually understand the country and understand where you are, you realize how fortunate you are to be in South Africa. So I really love South Africa. And
that's good. What's the one thing you're most proud of? That one thing. There's many things.
Yes.
I just need you to mention just one.
I think my family. I think I'm proud of my family. I think so. My wife, my kids. I think that's honestly, people think of leaving a legacy, and I think for me, I'm really proud of
your family. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was just icebreakers. We don't want to talk about family. Well, we will. But the reason why Marvel is here is because Marvel is launching his book. Such a cool book. It's called A Divided Kingdom, The War of Rain and Thunder. So this is the cover. And we are very fortunate, guys. These books are not out yet. We are the very few selected people that have been able to read the book so far. So Marvel, before we go into the book, I just want to know, what is your fondest memory about stories and books?
So I think something that a lot of people are not going to know, because I am a very academic person and a lot of people know me as an academic person. So growing up, I used to be a storyteller. I used to tell stories. I actually won the best storyteller in my province when I was in, I think, like the 9th grade or something like that. Wow. And whenever there was a play at school that we're doing, I used to write for my class. I used to be the person that's writing stories for my class. So I used to write a lot of stories. One of my stories was actually featured on a radio station. It was the Arrive Alive campaign, and we had to write a drama. And I wrote that. And so I've been writing for quite a long time. And then I just went to university and I just focused on my academics. And so it's not like I just woke up one day and then said, I'm deciding to become a writer. It's something that's always been very close to my heart. And when I got the chance to write, I was like, you know what, let me go back to what I love to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this was something
That's
that
cool.
came
So
from a
you were
passion.
exposed to books like at a very young age.
Yes, so I used to read a lot of historical books. I just like anything that has to do with history. I was growing up, I was quite fascinated with like stuff like ancient Egypt, Greek mythology, African laws. I wouldn't
Fascinated also. And I think that's why coming to London has been very interesting.
Yes.
When you go around House of Parliament and
Yes.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and it's all stories that you've read, and now you can
Absolutely.
like sort of like connect everything that
Absolutely.
you've read to like what you're seeing. So I believe that books are very powerful.
They are.
And I want to understand, so when did you decide that you want to write a book, or when did the idea come that I want to write a book?
So I think the idea came probably 7-8 years ago.
Sure.
And at the time I was I wanted to do my PhD as well. So it was okay, let me do my PhD first. I can always write my book at any time. So the idea came from about 8-7 years ago.
Sure.
So when I went to university, I started reading Marvel comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've always, when I was a kid, I used to be a fan.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And one of my absolute favorite Marvel comic hero is this girl or woman called Storm.
Oh yes.
You know,
Yes.
you know Storm, right?
Of course.
So Storm has the power to like make lightning and rain. She controls the weather.
Everything.
And then I became so obsessed with comics. I was reading her biography, and like they've got like fake biographies, obviously. I was reading about Storm, and something that stood out for me was that they say that in the comics she has a linkage to the Balobedu people in South Africa.
Okay.
And I remember reading that. I thought, oh, this is quite fascinating because I live so close to Balobedu people. They're like an hour's drive from my house. So I started researching more about Balobedu people, the Rain Queen, and that just fascinated me. Yeah, and then so I think that was where I got my first inspiration to actually work on this book, was connecting my love for Marvel comics heroes and my love for history and African laws, and just bringing them together.
So now it makes sense, because it's like I was wondering, why is it War of Rain and Thunder?
Yeah.
So the inspiration is Storm, guys. Our viewership, like we just wanna put it out there.
Yeah. Hopefully Marvel doesn't come and sue me for this. Because
they will sue us, guys. No, they won't sue us.
No,
they can't.
They
Also, the story is originally like the Balobedu people,
which is our
right?
people.
Yes, which is our people.
So we should sue Marvel.
And also, we can't speak about expropriation, but you all know how these things roll. So
Exactly.
yeah, on the breakdown, we speak about anything and everything, guys.
Yes.
Land expropriation is still a matter in our lifetime. So yeah, so this book, basically I've read a bit of it actually, and it's very fascinating for me how you portrayed the characters, especially of like, you know, females, very strong.
Yes.
I mean, from the Rain Queen, and we also don't want to give it out too much because we still need y'all to buy.
Yes.
And we will announce where it's available to buy. So this book, it's literally like a dream for me personally, because I grew up on Harry Potter. I grew up on what's the other one that we all loved? Lord of the Rings, you know, Airbenders, and you know, all those movies. Like I would binge on them, and they were great, but I always felt like I could not exactly, you know. I feel like I always say, my friends, all of them know representation matters. So the fact that like I'm talking about a queen whose name is literally like something that I know, and of course because of a story that I know. But I liked you know, the portrayal of the female leaders, because in society, you know, there's always this like, oh, we believe in females, but when it's time for leadership, everyone is like, oh, are they ready? You know? So I really like that there's a portrayal of the leaders from the Rain Queen to even the Queen's protectors being female, the fact that you always see that it's male. I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's so important for us to have stories about us by us?
Yeah, like you said, it's so important for us to have representation. And we grow up, seeing the Harry Potters, the Hobbits, a lot of the rest, the Game of Thrones, where, people that look like us are not on screen. It just feels like there's so few stories like this that are made for us. So I saw that there was such a gap for our stories. And yes, we've got serious stories, we've got serious books, that we can make, but I wanted something that's fun, that's light, but at the same time still telling our stories. So it was that important to me. Also that all the stories that are in this book, they're influenced by real stories, like from when we grew up. We grew up hearing stories about the Rain Queen, we grew up listening to stories about King Shaka. So it's like taking those stories and rebranding them to be fictional and fun. Important.
I like what you're saying, because for me, I think that's why when Wakanda came out, it was such a massive movement. And for once you could see like African people were very excited. And it also tells you that we are people who have a lot of stories. And but I like that we are now wanting stories that really focus on us. And it's important for me, particularly for children and teenagers, because the more you see people that look like you, sound like you, the more you imagine yourself doing that. And I think that's one thing that books do for me, because I didn't even play tennis, for example. I've never played tennis, but whenever I watch Serena play, I'm like, there's nothing I can't do, as a person, as a black young woman, there's absolutely nothing. So for me, stories like this are very critical, and I like that we are writing our own, and we don't even have to say our own Harry Potter.
No,
it's our own stories.
It's our own stories.
So I really like it. And I want to ask you, what was the most difficult thing about writing this book?
So I know this is gonna sound very weird, but I don't know, this, whenever I sit in front of my laptop and start writing, I just feel like there's a story that's trapped inside of my head that's crying out to be released. And every time I start typing, it sets me free. So the more I hold on to this story, the more I feel like a prisoner of the story. I don't know if it's making sense. So it feels like a release for me to write the story. So I think the most difficult thing about writing the book, honestly, was trying to get an agent. As you know, I'm self-publishing, and I got rejected by a couple of agents. And one of the reasons why they rejected me is because most agents told me that they couldn't, their audience were not black people. And one agent in particular said, hinted that perhaps I should change the names and the race of some of the characters. I remember that broke me, and I remember sending a message to one of my friends who's been reviewing, and I said, do you think that I should just make the characters another race? Do you think that would help me get an agent and people will be able to relate to this story? And he was like, no. Write this story how you want to write it. Even if you have to self-publish, that's fine. And I found that really there's a very few African writers out there, because a lot of agents can't relate to their story. So when we tell our stories like this, for them it's such a strange concept. They're like, oh, the names, they're so difficult to read. And then that honestly to me was the most difficult part, to get like no's from these agents, and the way they would say it, and you get this underlying tone of saying,
it's not good enough.
Like it's not really our thing. It's not gonna sell.
We're not into it.
Because somebody.
I am literally like so sad.
So that's some of the hardship. Unfortunately, I think as African or authors of color, I think that's what a lot of people face, is that there's just not the support.
And
the thing that I took very careful to make sure with these characters is to describe them, to make black people feel so
I
proud, you
love
know,
that.
and just say you've got, I'm like,
Yeah.
she's got beautiful,
Yes.
you know, honey skin,
Yeah.
and you know.
I love the description of the rain queen herself.
Yes,
like,
you know,
there was
she's-
something about how
she's-
she was tall.
Yeah, and this is something that one of my editors says. He was like, the way you describe these characters, they come to life, and that's what I wanted for you
Yeah.
to feel like you know this person, you can
Yes.
relate to this
Yes.
person, and
But for me, that's why fiction books are so important, because they make you imagine,
Yes,
right? And
yeah.
that's one of the biggest things that you can do,
Yes.
especially for children
Yes.
and teenagers,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So when you write books like this, for me, it's not just we're writing a story,
Yeah.
but you imagine and the possibility of how, as African people,
Yeah.
we've always ruled,
Yeah.
you know, our own kingdoms.
Yeah.
So I loved that the characters were not just about people that you can identify with, but you can also imagine, you
Yeah.
know, and just the beauty, because as African people, we are very beautiful people.
Yes, we are.
Because I believe that storytelling assists us to
Yeah.
really preserve culture, but
Yes.
also languages. So that's what my urge is for everyone who's in a book club, to basically get this book, and it's the next read for a book club. And the reason why I like you speaking about the different tribes, we have a generation that is not going to read the same way that we read,
Yeah.
right? And what is critical is to make history, as we need to evolve how we tell stories.
Yeah.
So it means with history also, we need to find a way to integrate and really share about it. And the reason why I speak about culture and languages is because, to your first point when we started the interview, was talking about how as South Africans, we have so much in terms of our diversity, our culture. But what you also find is that a lot of us don't know each other's cultures,
Yeah.
each other's history,
Yes.
you know? So it's important that we don't just speak about these things in school,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Absolutely. So the other thing that this book has forced me to do is for me to do research. Last week,
Yeah.
because I was writing one of these chapter, and there was a greeting that I needed, which is from influence from the Swati people.
Yeah.
I had to call one of my Swati friends and
Yeah.
said, how do Swati people greet? What is so? It's forced me
Sure.
to actually learn about other cultures,
Yeah.
and I hope that in turn people will read this
Yeah.
book, will also step out of their comfort zone
Yeah.
and learn about other
Other
cultures.
cultures. Yeah. So, Dr. Marvel,
Yes.
I want to understand, what was your writing process like? You spoke about what was difficult, but
Yeah.
I want to understand, in terms of your writing process, were you writing? Did you go to a writing retreat?
Yeah.
Is it something that you did after work?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that might be watching, like right now,
Yeah.
are aspiring writers, and they're
Yeah.
trying to juggle, how do I write? You know, how do I balance? Do I go on a retreat?
Yeah.
Where do I start? So you've always had a story inside you that you wanted
Yeah.
to write, but some people have a story, but they don't know how to actually put it down. So
Yeah. If you're a writer, number one, start. Number two, find inspiration in everything around you.
Yeah.
Everything is a story to tell. And so it's so important that you stop, observe the beauty, get inspired, and then you can write your story.
I love that. Very good. And I'm always just encouraged by stories of authors that
Yeah.
you read, and they're like, they got rejected so many times,
Yeah.
but they never gave up, and
Yeah.
then now they're like succeeding and so forth. So I really like that this is like also,
You know,
something
something that really I want to highlight that my wife advised me was, she said to me, if you release this book and nobody buys it, what's that gonna do to you? And I thought to myself, I said, actually nothing.
yeah.
If I sell this book and nobody buys it, I'm not gonna wake up any different from who I am, you know. But all I would know is that I wrote something that I'm very proud of,
Yeah.
and I know that this is something that I loved doing. I
Yeah.
love being part of this process.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the success part.
Yeah.
The success is not gonna come from people buying it, which I hope you do. Don't get me wrong.
You
Go
do,
buy
you
them.
have to.
But that's not the success. The success is the fact that I took a risk on something that is completely crazy, and that's,
And it's a dream that
yeah,
you had.
it's a
and
dream
that's
that
all
I had,
matters.
and that's all that matters.
So when I read the book, it said from the book series,
Yeah.
The War of Rain and Thunder. So what does this mean?
So-
Are you gonna write a sequel?
Yes.
What's gonna
So-
happen?
Right now, I am planning, I think 4 books, might be 5. So this is the first book of 5. So if you read this book, especially if you read the end, you will notice that there's a big cliffhanger. Like and people that have read this, they're like, oh, Marvel, we hate you for leaving this book in such a way that you did. But that's because, and this book, okay, if you're reading it, you might feel like, okay, it's a bit, some people might think it's a bit slow, but the thing is, it's building this story because I need people to first understand the background of what I'm doing. So this first book has a lot of like history, you know, who are these people? Why do you need to care about who these people are? And then there's like big action, fights, war, betrayal. And there's a story that I love about friendship as well. But so that's what this book's about. And then the following book is now going to be go. It's just
it's
gonna
Marvel
be
launching a book, and there's already another sequel in place. Literally, there's literally already a second book.
I've started on the second book already, and it's just absolutely madness.
I love that. I love that young African people are writing stories for African people.
Thank you.
For me, it's amazing. And congratulations on this one. Mine needs to be signed properly. You signed it, but I want a nice message. I want, you know, when you're like, guys, I was one, and I want to keep this copy, which is literally saying not for resale yet. So I want everyone to, and I'll be like, yes, guys, I got it first. Before very few people got it. I'm one of the chosen ones. So Marvel, this is for me a milestone. And I want to say, as part of the breakdown, which I know myself and Nkateko are really like excited about, is seeing young people tell stories.
Thank you so much.
We literally are about telling stories in everything and anything that we do, because we just believe that, you know, as much as we have that slogan of ours as a country, South Africa, that says uniting in diversity, we believe that we unite in diversity when we know each other's stories. And this will really help us to know each other's stories. So please get this book. We are very excited. The book will come maybe in June. And the plan is to release it hopefully in June or July. That's my release date. So I'll keep everybody updated on the actual final release date. Where can people check out the book, where to get it, socials? You know, we are the people of TikToks. People of Instagram, people of Twitter, Facebook. So how do people get like this book? So I've created an Instagram account for the book. So please follow an Instagram account, A Divided Kingdom. I'll be posting all the updates. But importantly, so I will link up once everything is ready. I will tell people where to get the book. But it will definitely be available on Amazon or on Ingram Spark. So on Ingram Spark, you can go to your bookshop, like your normal bookshop, and request the book, and they will then, I think you can get it through them. So I'll make sure that the book is available globally to everyone. And if anyone can get it, please just send me a message and I will find a way on getting the book to you. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Dr. Marvel. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. Also, this was my first interview for the book with this wonderful presenter. I wish you all the best for your podcast. I honestly think that Renai has such a talent for doing this. I think that she should be interviewing more people, especially around books and around this type of, conversation, be having more of this conversation. She was absolutely amazing, and I'm so honored. I am so honored that I get to launch my book in a sense on her channel. Thank you so much. I am officially the first person to get this book launched officially online on the breakdown. Guys, please get the book. We're very excited. Marvel, please make sure that you give us all the details once the book is available. We will spread the socials.